She called me dial-up. Like I wasn't the reason this company even has servers to begin with. It happened in conference room B, glass walls, ergonomic chairs, and one of those exposed concrete ceilings that someone in marketing convinced the board looked tech chic. I was standing at the head of the table with the Q3 report on screen, walking through campaign lift percentages for our top-tier accounts. We'd posted a 19% increase in retention. Yo. Despite the economy tightening like a noose. I'd built the model that got us there. Not my team, me. That's when she laughed. Not loud. Just a quick snort, high-pitched. The kind of sound you'd expect from someone scrolling TikTok during a funeral. I paused, glanced over. Elena Porter, daughter of board member Raymond Porter, had her feet on the chair beside her, holding a cold brew like she was watching an open mic night. "Sorry," she said, still smiling. This feels so dial-up." A few people chuckled. The interns laughed harder than they needed to. The new CFO, Benton, smirked but didn't meet my eyes. I just stood there, pointer still in hand. "I'm sorry," I said evenly. "Could you clarify?" She leaned forward, elbows on the table like she was about to explain something to a confused waiter. "This whole thing, your slides, your model, it's just so old school. No offense, Daniel. But we need 5G minds now, not dial-up loyalty. I'm Daniel Keller. I'm 54 years old. I've been the senior strategy architect at Mercer Harlow Group for 27 years. Longer than half the board's been out of college. I wrote the original infrastructure blueprint for our client lifecycle protocol before Elena Porter even had a LinkedIn profile. But none of that mattered now. The room shifted. A couple of people exchanged glances. Elena turned toward the CEO, nodding toward her companion Cassidy. A girl I'd seen twice and only in curated Instagram moments on the People company's social feed. "Elena's recommended we make some structural shifts," the CEO said, reading something on his iPad like it had just appeared. "Effective Monday, Cassidy will be leading digital growth strategy for brand tier A." That was my department. Cassidy beamed like she'd just won a giveaway. No resume, no track record, just teeth and tan lines and a well-timed friendship with the woman who'd just called me obsolete in front of the entire executive floor. I looked at the CEO, then at Elena, then back at the screen where my final report still blinked, waiting for me to click next slide. But I didn't. I powered it down, closed the laptop, packed the cable slowly, precisely. No one spoke. The room had gone soft and twitchy, like everyone was waiting for someone else to say something first. I looked at the company badge clipped to my belt, worn down around the edges, the laminate peeling just a bit from years of swiping it across sensors. I took it off and set it on the table. Not dramatically, just factually. Then I walked out. I didn't take the elevator. I took the stairs, 5 flights down. Like I used to when the agency was just 2 floors and a rented coffee machine. Back when loyalty meant something. Back when I was seen as the mind, not the relic. I didn't file anything. Didn't log out. Didn't even lock the laptop they'd eventually find on my desk, screen still warm. That night I slept like a man who'd just been shot at and didn't realize the bullet missed. The next morning, at 6:48 a.m., my phone rang. Caller ID. West Point Biotech, our largest account for the past 8 years. I hesitated, then answered. "Daniel, what the hell is going on over there?" The voice boomed through the receiver. "We just got an invoice for $300,000. You triple-billed Q2 and listed a campaign we never approved. Who the hell signed off on this?" I didn't answer. I just stared out the window as he kept talking, voice rising. Phrases like, pulling the account and breach of contract flying at me like shrapnel. When he finally paused to breathe, I ended the call. "No, goodbye." Then I opened my personal terminal, logged into the admin panel, and deleted every credential I'd ever issued from my private cloud. She thought I was unplugged. But I built the damn circuitry. By Friday, the cracks were showing. The same conference room where Elena crowned her bridesmaid as a strategist had become a war zone of damage control meetings. Clients were pulling out quietly at first, then all at once. I didn't need to be there to see it happening. I knew how fast systems collapsed when the wrong people held the cables. I got a call from one of our vendor partners at 9 a.m. She was pissed. "They're blaming us," she said, breathless. "Your replacements are sending assets to the wrong regional segments. Asia getting US-only promo codes. Pharma clients receiving templates for coffee brands. And now they're telling the board it's our infrastructure." It wasn't. I knew it. They knew it. The whole damn system had been humming for years under the architecture I designed: custom pipelines, error flags, auto backups keyed to regional metadata. I didn't just know how it worked. I wrote the playbook. Mercer Harlow was 2 floors and a shared coffee pot when I came on in '96. The server room was a locked closet with a fan plugged into a wall socket. I slept under my desk the night we onboarded our first $1 million client, manually pushing segmentation scripts line by line. There was no cloud. No automated CRM, just me, a whiteboard, and enough caffeine to fuel a heart attack. When Raymond Porter joined the board in '04, I trained him. He was all politics. But he watched me during those first launches like I was defusing bombs. I showed him how we'd win the retention war, not with flashy slides or agency buzzwords, but with infrastructure that never failed. His daughter used to shadow the interns back then. Elena, 15, maybe 16, always hovering behind the account leads. Wide-eyed, I showed her how drip logic worked, why subject line length changed open rates. She took notes. I thought she had potential. Turns out, she had something better: her father's last name. Now she had Cassidy signing contracts, triggering sequences, and assigning clients to reps who'd never even logged into the back end. And they were blaming vendors, and the vendors were blaming me. At 4:27 p.m., I made a call to West Point Biotech. Roger picked up on the second ring. "Dan, want to know what's really going on over there?" He paused. Then, "Meet me for drinks." I smiled for the first time in days. That night we met at Durant's. Back booth, bourbon in hand. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. I laid it out. What I'd seen, what I'd built, what they'd broken. I showed him screenshots, date-stamped workflows. Cassidy had overridden. Client approvals skipped. Test servers pushed live. "Jesus," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "They told us it was legacy code." "No," I said. "It was legacy people." He leaned back and exhaled. "This is gonna get messy." "I hope so." He nodded slowly, already planning the next move. "We'll talk Monday." I left the bar calm, centered. This wasn't rage. It was precision. They'd forgotten who built the network. Back home, I booted up my old terminal. The access logs were still updating. Cassidy hadn't even cleared her own sessions. Elena was posting inspirational quotes on LinkedIn while her bridesmaid broke the integrity of a $70 million infrastructure. They thought I was gone. I was watching everything. At 10:41 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but a text came through right after. It was from Marcus, an old protege I'd hired out of ASU and mentored for 5 years before he left. For intel, they're rewriting the vendor logs. Trying to backdate ticket errors to you. You're about to get a letter from legal. I stared at the screen. Then, I powered up the secondary archive. Let them come. I wasn't panicked. I was archiving. 3 hours after Marcus warned me they were rewriting logs to make me the fall guy, I was already sifting through 3 terabytes of encrypted backups. Not the kind that live on company servers. The kind that live off-grid, on isolated drives mirrored every 30 days, invisible to Mercer Harlow's IT. Redundancy was always part of my architecture, not just for the systems but for me. The interface lit up in gray and green. Timestamps. Server trails. Internal chat archives. I traced access logs like veins, saw the fingerprints of Cassidy bumbling through operations she didn't understand. She'd overridden region tags on live campaigns, disabled flagging on lead duplicates, triggered rollout cycles 3 times in a week. One click at a time, She dismantled what took me a decade to build. I pulled open a private folder marked Firewall. It wasn't for security. It was insurance. Inside were months of screen caps, metadata trails, flagged approvals every time Elena rubber-stamped Cassidy's incompetence. I hadn't stayed quiet out of fear. I'd stayed quiet because I was still watching and documenting. People assumed I didn't leave Mercer Harlow because I needed the paycheck. They thought I was scared to jump, too old, too analog. But the truth was simpler. This company wasn't a job. It was my life's work. I'd written the logic behind its first onboarding funnel. I had paper prototypes of our original customer journey flow still pinned to a corkboard in my garage. You don't walk away from something you bled into. So instead, I built shadow systems, keyloggers, approval mirrors, audit clones with delay offsets. Nothing illegal, nothing traceable, just a parallel truth, preserved in silence. They replaced me in title, but never in presence. And then I found it. Folder 11, C, audio cache. A flagged client call logged 2 months ago. Elena speaking with a Fortune 100 client, Herbrook and Sloan Pharmaceuticals. Cassidy had pushed a campaign early, caused a misfire with regional exclusivity rights. The error cost the client $2.5 million in lost contracts. Elena told them it was a system fault due to legacy logic, swore Cassidy had fixed it. I knew better. Cassidy never saw the error. Elena buried it. The recording was clear. Elena's voice measured, deliberate lying through her teeth. I scrubbed through the call 3 times, verifying timestamps, headers, cross-referencing server events. All of it lined up, and I smiled. I opened a secure shell. No email, no traceable sender. I generated a report. Timeline of system overrides, staff login inconsistencies, archived Slack messages, annotated logs, full transcription of the call. I paired it with the actual audio file and a spreadsheet of damages. Then I packaged it and dropped it into a secure server used by Herbrook and Sloan's compliance department. No name, no return address, no fingerprints. 10 minutes later, I turned off the lights, left the screen humming in the dark, and sat on the edge of the bed. This wasn't anger. This wasn't even revenge. This was math correcting itself. At 1:03 a.m., my phone lit up. I didn't recognize the number, but I didn't need to. I answered without a word. The voice on the other end was sharp, controlled. "You were right," he said. "War." Then the line went dead. She had power. I had receipts. At 8:42 a.m., Herbrook and Sloan dropped the bomb. A single press release, 12 sentences long, public, precise, brutal, effective immediately. They were terminating all contracts with Mercer Harlow Group, citing a breach of ethical responsibility and gross misrepresentation of campaign execution. No legalese, no soft exits. Just clean language that echoed like gunfire across the industry. By noon, the firm's LinkedIn page was swamped with questions. By 2 p.m., 2 other clients quietly froze payments, waiting to see what came next. By 5, a reporter from Agency Insider broke the headline. Mercer Harlow loses flagship account amid scandal. The stock dipped 11% by closing bell. Inside the office, I could picture the panic. Benton pacing. PR scrambling. The board dialing into emergency sessions. Elena trying to act composed, still wearing power like perfume, pretending she hadn't just been exposed as the architect of a 7-figure disaster. I knew her tells. She'd be pressing her thumb into her palm under the table, the way she always did when she couldn't stop the bleeding. I didn't watch the news. I didn't need to. I picked up the phone instead. One by one, I called them. Clients I had nurtured, deals I'd closed, teams I'd trained. I let my name land first, Daniel Keller, and waited for the silence to catch. Then I spoke the same words every time. I stayed quiet for years. I won't anymore. They listened. All of them. Some had already heard rumors. Others asked questions before I could even begin. I answered each one. Calm, measured, professional. I didn't rant. I presented facts, timestamps, documents, names. I didn't smear Elena. I exposed her. There's a difference. By evening, 4 more clients had paused communications with Mercer Harlow. Quietly, deliberately. Just enough disruption to make the firm sweat. And then my phone rang again. Unknown number, I answered. It was her. Dan, she said, voice soft. Controlled at first but cracked at the edges like glass under strain. Please. What do you want? I stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker across my driveway. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just silence. Stillness. I want an apology, I said, on record. At the board. She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing, could almost picture her pacing her office, eyes flicking toward whatever advisor was waving their hands in panic behind the scenes. I can arrange that, she finally said, if we do it privately. No, I cut in. At the board. On the record. There was a long pause. Then, okay. I ended the call. And then I sent the clip. It was a clean 62-second surveillance video from the HR floor. Cassidy, her bridesmaid turned director, signing a contract in my name 3 days after I returned my keycard. You could see her glance over her shoulder twice before applying my signature to the approval line. Bold, unshaken, fraudulent. It was time-stamped, dated, verified. I sent it to the internal board Dropbox under a folder labeled Contractual Integrity Urgent. Then I sat back in my chair, exhaled, and watched the storm roll in. She tried to delete me, but I still had admin access. It was fitting, really, that we ended where it all began. Same boardroom, same polished concrete, same wall-mounted screen where Elena once called me dial-up in front of the people I'd trained. Built beside, bled beside. This time, I didn't stand at the head of the table. I waited. Stephen Bell, outside counsel for Mercer Harlow, opened the meeting. His presence alone was a sign the board wanted containment. Legal had been looped in. Damage control was in full spin. Elena sat at the far end, flanked by her bridesmaid turned digital director, Cassidy, both in black blazers, as if mourning a version of the company that still functioned. Her father, Raymond Porter, sat 2 chairs down. Face unreadable. He didn't look at me when I entered. Most of them didn't. But I didn't need their eyes. I had their attention. Stephen gestured to the screen. Mr. Keller has submitted documentation relevant to the Herbrook and Sloan breach. He's asked to present it directly. I nodded once, connected my drive, and loaded the folder I'd labeled Reckoning 1. The room dimmed slightly as the projection came to life. No words. Just audio first. Elena's voice, crystal clear, telling the client that Cassidy's mistake was due to legacy code issues and that Daniel Keller had missed the necessary update approvals before his departure. No. Stuttering. No guesswork. A confident lie meant to cover up a $2.5 million blunder. Murmurs started immediately. Someone on the left side of the table cursed under their breath. I advanced the slide. Video footage played next. Cassidy in HR, crouched over a desk with a clipboard, glancing over her shoulder before scribbling my name in the approval line of a Tier 1 contract. It wasn't even a good forgery, but it had been enough. Until now. I moved to the final screen. An invoice chain. Date mismatched approvals. Double charges. Campaigns launched without segmentation filters. 4 clients affected, 2 already terminated. Estimated damage, $7.4 million and rising. The room went silent. Then everything broke. Jesus Christ, someone said. This is fraud. We were told this was back-end vendor failure. Who the hell signed off on those invoices? All of it flying like shrapnel. And Elena, for once, had nothing to say. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Raymond finally looked at me. Just once, and I saw it in his eyes. Not anger. Not defense. Recognition. Stephen cleared his throat. Given the material provided, And the obvious breach of internal policy. Mercer Harlow is terminating Elena Porter and Cassidy Rains effective immediately. Legal proceedings for falsification of contract records are pending review. Cassidy gasped. Elena turned toward her father, eyes wide. Dad. But he didn't speak, didn't flinch, just stared straight ahead like he was watching the end of a movie he never wanted to be in. Security stepped inside the room. Clean suits. Quiet shoes. I opened my briefcase one last time. Inside was a printed copy of my full service ledger, 27 years. Every project I'd led, every account I'd saved, every campaign that had hit metrics others said were impossible. At the bottom of the last page, I'd circled a number in red ink. Total bonuses awarded, $0. I laid it on the table in front of Stephen. Then I finally let emotion crack the surface. You can't replace loyalty with LinkedIn endorsements. No one spoke after that. I walked out before the silence ended. Down the hall. Past HR. Through the front doors I used to unlock at 6:30 a.m. when the cleaning crew was still finishing up. I didn't look back. Not until I reached the parking garage. She was there, leaning against a concrete pillar, crying not performative tears, not boardroom tears, quiet ones, real ones. Elena, I said. She looked up, wiped her face. Why did you do this? She asked. You could have ruined everything. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said it. I didn't. You did. And I left.